Welcome to Behind the Neon Lights, Understanding Personal Injury Law in Las Vegas and Beyond.
Welcome to Behind the Neon Lights, Understanding Personal Injury Law in Las Vegas and Beyond with Jared Clark, owner and founder of the Clark Law Group. Jared specializes in auto collision, motorcycle crashes, and personal injury law. He is dedicated to helping clients every step of the way. I'm Lisa Mosby, your host, and today we're talking about a question that comes up in almost every injury case: how much a car accident claim may actually be worth in Nevada. Welcome back, Jared.
Good afternoon. Happy to be back.
Jared, what determines the value of a car accident case in Nevada?
There's a lot of things that goes into the valuation of personal injury cases. I like to say the big three are medical bills, pain and suffering, which is just this very general, overarching, theme of damages. And then you got wage loss, or the inability to work, or you lost your job, or even maybe earning potential due to injury.
So let's get into the medical treatments. Medical treatment is often a major part of these cases. How do medical bills and ongoing treatment affect the potential value of a claim?
Medical bills are very important, right? Because in order for there to be a valid or viable case, you have to be injured. When you're injured, sadly, medical bills start to pile up after that, right? You got everything from conservative care things like physical therapy to chiropractor. You got things from um, pain management, interventional pain management. If someone suffered a traumatic brain injury, they may have to go see a neurologist. So there's a lot of different specialists depending on what symptoms your body is exhibiting. And you need to go get it addressed. You need to get fixed. You need to get repaired, right? And you shouldn't have to pay for that. The person who caused that should be the one paying for that. So medical bills are very important to make sure that your documentation is there, and also if there's any future medical care that you may need, right? What if it's something that's ongoing and you're going to have residuals the next 10, 15, 20 years? A certified licensed medical practitioner needs to spell that out so we could do our job to make sure that that settlement contemplates all of those.
And then how do lost wages or inability to return to work factor into the value of the injury case?
That's another huge component, right? Wage loss. A lot of people, I know we had a case recently, a lot of Uber drivers and Lyfts on the road, right? Well, they use their vehicle to make their money, right? And when they're in an accident, oftentimes they can't either drive for a long period of time, or their vehicle needs to get repaired or was totaled out, right? So that's a scenario where we would present a wage loss claim to make sure that you know but for that accident happening, they would not have been in this position. So sometimes for maybe very successful folks where their economic picture is much more dynamic, right? Maybe like a hedge fund person or someone who has a lot of investments. And if they can't work, we may have to hire an economist to run numbers to say, what they were making and what that looks like in the future as well. So wage loss is another important one.
Does the severity of an injury play the biggest role in determining value, or are there other factors that can maybe influence the outcome of the case?
There's a lot of different factors. Oftentimes, the severity of the injuries really influences the value of the case, right? Traumatic brain injuries are oftentimes something that never leaves you. So that's something where you would need a life care planner to spell out what medical needs you may need for the rest of your life, right? Someone who goes underneath the guns who actually have a surgery, let's say maybe in their neck where they're getting two disc removed, right? The value of that case is going to be a lot different maybe than someone who healed after going to the chiropractor for 2 weeks, right? Uh, One from the medical bills, but also the pain and suffering and the invasiveness of such a huge open procedure that carries a lot of risk. And sometimes there's just, a lot of mental damages that can really move the needle for, things like sexual assault cases and things of that nature.
How do insurance policy limits affect how much compensation someone may actually be able to recover?
Yeah. So sadly, every vehicle that causes an accident doesn't have $1 million or $2 million worth of insurance. We know that, right? In fact, in Nevada, the minimum requirement is $25,000 of liability insurance for the everyday person if you're not, using it for commercial purposes. That could go pretty quickly depending on what your injuries are and what you need to get addressed from the doctors. So let's say if there's a $50,000 policy limit available and there's no other insurance that exists, we need to make sure as we're prosecuting your case that we try to put you in a position where things don't go over that and we leave you upside down, right? So if it's something like a FedEx or UPS truck, they're obviously going to have a lot more insurance, right? And the medical care and the value of your case, what could actually be recovered is a lot different because there's a ton of insurance, right? As opposed to, you're capped at a certain amount. So that is, I'm going to say the name of the game at times is to locate insurance. There are some exceptions sometimes. Let's say if the person, has a lot of assets, or businesses or a lot of real estate or things that maybe you can attach. But generally speaking, we go after insurance and whatever is there is kind of what we're left to work with.
And then documentation often becomes so important in these cases. What kinds of records or evidence tend to strengthen the value of the claim?
Everything from medical records, right, from the doctors that you're seeing, well documented medical records, their billing records identifying what procedures they rendered, how much did that procedure cost. We always secure impact statements from our clients as well, because that to me draws to the adjuster or the attorney on the other side of how this affected them outside the four corners of the medical records, the bills, right? What couldn't you do? What did your family have to witness? What maybe did your spouse have to take over, whether household duties or certain chores or grocery shopping or whatever it may be? Not being able to, the inability to sleep at night. Um, so impact statements, and obviously you have things from property damage photographs to repair estimates and things of that nature that we make sure are part of the case as well.
And then, Jared, are there common mistakes that people make after an accident that can reduce the value of their claim?
Yes, far too many sometimes, right? It's almost like in the criminal space, right? If you're getting arrested, don't say anything. If you get in an accident, don't say anything to the insurance company, right? One of the biggest ones that I see is giving the at fault insurance company a recorded statement after the accident happens. That happens all the time. There is no rule, no statute, no law that compels you to give a statement to them, and they're not on your side. One, this is an insurance company, right? Two, this is the at fault insurance company. So they're going to try to use whatever you say against you. Sometimes you may not know that you're not at fault. It might be a complicated picture, and it's important not to give up any of the goods. Or you might say, "Hey, I'm not hurt," not knowing that the mechanism of injury for so many, the whiplash symptoms or injuries that could occur 2, 3, 4 days after the accident happens. So you really don't want to pigeonhole yourself with giving it a statement where either a lawyer or an insurance company is just going to try to use it against you at all costs.
So let's say somebody did, our audience that's listening, let's say they did give that recorded statement to their insurance company. Their insurance company isn't necessarily working on their behalf. You've said that before. Um, is there anything that they can do to recover from that? If they've already given the statement, it's already recorded. Do they still, or can they still reach out to an attorney who could work on their behalf to help them get settled?
Absolutely. It's rarely ever death defying. It could just make our job of pursuing the proper compensation for you a lot more challenging than what it needs to be, right? It gives them something to dig their teeth into. So you 2000% likely still have a case. We just may have to try to undo some things as the case progressed, depending on what was the mishap that was in.
And here's my final question. Let's wrap it up with this. For someone trying to understand what their case might be worth, what steps can help them get a clearer picture of that situation right now, and how should they move forward?
For someone trying to understand what their case may be worth, you have to hire a legal professional to understand that. You need to know, what are Clark County juries given for similar type of cases, right? Is it a spinal injury? Is it a disc protrusion injury? Is it a traumatic brain injury? That type of data and having access to that type of data is very important, right? Because insurance company, they're going to try to lowball you, right? There's times where there's been a huge detective injury or a fracture, and right after the accident, they will offer $1,500. Obviously they know that's not enough to repair your fracture, right, or undergo some type of surgery to fix you. So they don't have your best interest. Leave it up for a legal professional to have all the data at their beck and call, do a proper evaluation of your case, and then they can let you know, where does that lie on the spectrum.
Beautiful. And we'll leave it there today. Thanks so much for your time, Jared.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Hey, folks, that's it for today's episode of Behind the Neon Lights Understanding Personal Injury Law in Las Vegas and Beyond with C. Jared Clark. To connect with the team at Clark Law Group, visit injuryattorneyvegas.com. And don't forget to like, leave a review, and subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next one. We'll see you then.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.